So, what's new in July 2024? Hey, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoy it. I'm trying something new with this, and I thought it would be really cool just to find as many fantasy new releases as I could in July. I went through a few different websites and I hope I found everything, but I'm sure I did not. So if there's anything I don't mention in this video, please put it in the comments. Let people know when it's coming out, what it's about. If you know any indie books that I didn't mention that are coming out, because it's kind of harder to look up for that. Yeah, if you know of any of those, drop them in the comments too. And I have a lot of books lined up, so let's get into it. So first up in July 1st, we have The Moon Tear. She must never come to use magic, or she will destroy us all. If Island can stay hidden under her 20th birthday, she will finally be free. A cast-off from Elvish high society in the Tree City of Mainwood, Island seeks out a meager existence as a black market herbalist assistant. Her family is dead or missing, her memory is fractured, and a power lurks within her that she cannot control. But one more year, and the magic burning inside her will be released back to the land. Free of its influence, she can finally make an ordinary life of herself. Yet the realm of Alagana tilts toward war, and the tyrant king Magnagog has taken a special interest in Island. So have the assassins of the Twilight Realm, particularly Kip, whose connection to Island may run counter to the contract he's magically bound to complete. Soon, Island will have to choose her allies and assume her place in the world. Does she come to the aid of Mainwood's downtrodden human population, or follow in the footsteps of Master of Magic who believes Island will be the heart of a coming calamity? In this kingdom ruled by men who all want her power for their own, only one thing is. Next up, we have The Undermining of Twyla and Frank, July 2nd, by Megan Bannen. From the author of The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy comes a heartwarming fantasy with a best friends to lovers rom-com twist. When Harry Met Sally, but with dragons. Set in the delightful demigod and donut-filled world of Tanria. The entire town of Eternity was shocked when widowed, middle-aged Twyla Banneker partnered up with her neighbor and best friend Frank Ellis to join the Tanrian Marshals. 8 years later, Twyla and Frank are still patrolling the dangerous land of Tanria, the former prison of the old gods. Twyla might look like a small-town mom who brings cheesy potatoes to funerals and whips up a batch of cookies for the school bake sale, but her rewarding career in law enforcement has been a welcome change from the domestic grind of mom life, despite the misgivings of her grown children. Fortunately, or unfortunately, a recent decrease in on-the-job peril has made Twyla and Frank's job a lot safer and a lot less exciting. So when they discover the body of one of their fellow marshals covered in liquid glitter, and Frank finds himself the inadvertent foster dad to a baby dragon, they are more than happy to be back on the beat. Soon the friends wind up ensnared in a nefarious plot that goes far deeper than any lucrative Tanrian mineshaft. But as the danger closes in and Twyla and Frank's investigation becomes more complicated, so does their easy friendship, and Twyla starts to realize that her true soulmate might just be the person who has lived next door all along. Next up we have Breaking the Dark, a Jessica Jones Marvel crime novel by Lisa Jewell. In her most imaginative novel yet, #1 New York Times best-selling author Lisa Jewell launches the Marvel crime series of thriller books for adults with an original story starring the private detective Jessica Jones. Meet Jessica Jones, retired superhero, private investigator, loner. She tried her best to be a shiny spandex crime fighter, but the life only led to unspeakable trauma. Now she avoids that world altogether and works on surviving day to day in Hell's Kitchen, New York. The morning a distraughtful mother comes into her office, Jessica would prefer to nurse her hangover and try to forget last night's poor choices. But something about Amber Randall's story strikes a chord with her. Amber is adamant that something happened to her teenage twins while they were visiting their father in the UK. The twins don't act like themselves, and they now have flawless skin, have lost their distinctive tics and habits, and keep talking about a girl named Belle. Amber insists her children have been replaced by something horrible, something perfect. Traveling to a small village in the British countryside, Jessica meets the mysterious Belle, who lives a curiously isolated life in an old farmhouse with a strange woman who claims to be her guardian. Can this unworldly teenager really be responsible for the Randall twins' new personas? Why does the strange little village of Barton Wallop seem to harbor dark energies and mysteries in its tight-knit community? The mother's intuition is never wrong, and Jessica knows that nothing in life is perfect. Not these kids, not her on-again, off-again relationship with Luke Cage, and certainly not Jessica herself. But even as she tries to buy into the idea that better days are ahead, Jessica Jones has seen all too clearly that behind every promise of perfection trails a dark, dangerous shadow. Breaking the Dark, the first book in the brand new Marvel crime series, introduces fans to a grittier, street-level side of the Marvel Universe, and will continue the original novels featuring fan-favorite characters with Luke Cage, written by S.A. Cosby, and Daredevil, written by Alex Segura. Next up, we have The Failures by Benjamin Lyer. In an unparalleled blend of apocalyptic science fiction and epic fantasy akin to the masterpieces like Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere, N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth trilogy, and David Mitchell's Cloud Atlas, debut author Benjamin Lyer presents the first gripping installment of the Wanderlands trilogy. The vast machine-like expanse of the Wanderlands, crafted by long-lost gods, is teetering on the brink of eternal darkness. Amidst this decaying behemoth, a diverse group of heroes, driven by prophetic dreams, embark on a perilous journey. Their mission? To mend their crumbling world, or witness its irrevocable end. Next, on July 4th, we have Reckless by Lauren Roberts. The second heart-racing installment in this best-selling, sizzling fantasy romance trilogy, perfect for fans of Red Queen and The Hunger Games. The kingdom of Ilia is in turmoil. After surviving the purging trials, ordinary-born Payden Grey has killed the king and kickstarted a resistance throughout the land. Now she's running from the one person she had wanted to run to. Kai Azar is now Ilia's enforcer, loyal to his brother Kit, the new king. He has vowed to find Payden and bring her to justice. Across the deadly scorches and deep into the hostile city of Dor, Kai pursues the one person he wishes he didn't have to, but in a city without elites, the balance between the hunter and the hunted shifts, and the battle between duty and desire is deadly. Be swept away by this best-selling kiss-or-kill romantasy trilogy, taking the world by storm. Then on July 9th, we have quite a few titles coming out, and starting with These Deathless Shores by P.H. Lowe. Gorgeous and devastating, P.H. Lowe's debut fantasy is richly reimagined tale of Captain Hook's origin, a story of cruelty, magic, lost innocence, and the indelible power of stories. Jordan was once a lost boy, convinced she would never grow up. Now she's 22 and exiled to the real world, still suffering withdrawal from the addictive magic dust of her childhood. With nothing left to lose, Jordan returns to the island and its stories of pirates and war and the heartlessness of youth, intent on facing Peter one last time on her own terms. If that makes her the villain, so be it. Then we have The Spellshop by Sarah Beth Durst. Keela has always had trouble dealing with people. Thankfully, as a librarian at the Great Library of Elysium, she and her assistant Kaz, a magically sentient spider plant, have spent the last decade sequestered among the Empire's most precious spellbooks, preserving their magic for the city's elite. When a revolution begins and the library goes up in flames, she and Kaz flee with all the spellbooks they can carry and head to a remote island Keela never thought she'd ever see again, her childhood home. Taking refuge there, Keela discovers, much to her dismay, a nosy and very handsome neighbor who can't take a hint and keeps showing up day after day to make sure she's fed and to help fix up her new home. In need of income, Keela identifies something that even the bakery in town doesn't have: jam. With the help of an old recipe book her parents left her and a bit of illegal magic, her cottage garden is soon covered in ripe berries. But magic can do more than make life a little sweeter, so Keela risks the consequences of using unsanctioned spells and opens the island's first ever and much needed secret spell shop. Like a Hallmark rom-com full of mythical creatures and fueled by cinnamon rolls and magic, the spell shop will heal your heart and feed your soul. Then we have The Sky on Fire by Jenn Lyons. Enter a world ruled by dragons. Anarod lives only for survival, preferring to thrive in the jungles of the deep with the Titan Drake she keeps by her side. When an adventuring party saves her from capture by the local warlord Sicarian, she is eager to return to her solitary life. But this is no ordinary rescue. Anarod's past has caught up with her, and these cunning misfits intend to spirit her away to the cloud cities, where they need her help to steal from a dragon's horde. There's only one in the cloud cities. Dragons rule, and the horde in question belongs to the current regent, Neveranimus, and she wants Anarod dead. Fans of Naomi Novik's Temeraire series and Rebecca Yaros's Fourth Wing will enjoy this page-turning adventure with conniving dragons, high-stakes intrigue, a daring heist, and a little bit of heat. Then we have Black Tide Sun by H.M. Long. Swashbuckling adventure on the high seas full of magic, betrayal, redemption, and fearsome women in the second book of the Winter Sea series for readers of Adrienne Young and Naomi Novik. A captured pirate reveals shocking news to Mary and Samuel that sends them in an urgent pursuit of Samuel's twin brother Benedict, but their search uncovers much more than they bargained for. While evading a cunning new foe, Mary and Samuel must navigate the complexities of their own growing bond as they launch a rescue mission with one of the most secure fortresses on the Mareshi coast. Then we have Beneath These Cursed Stars by Lexi Ryan. Princess Jazelyn has a secret. Armed with an enchanted ring that gives her death's kiss, Jazz has been sneaking away from the palace at night to assassinate her enemies. Shapeshifter Felicity needs a miracle. Fated to kill her magical father, she's been using her unique ability to evade a fatal prophecy. When rumors of an evil king Mordis's resurrection spread through the Shadow Court, Jazelyn decides to end him once and for all. Felicity agrees to take the form of the princess, allowing Jazz to covertly hunt Mordius, and starting Felicity on the path that could finally take her home. While Jazelyn teams up with the charming and handsome Kendrick, Felicity sets out to get closer to the wild Fae King Misha. Kendrick helps Jazelyn feel something other than anger for the first time in 3 years. Misha makes Felicity wish for a world where she's free to be her true self. Soon, the girls' missions are at risk, right alongside their hearts. The future of the human and Fae realm hangs in the balance as fates intertwine. Between perilous tasks, grim secrets, and forbidden romances, Jazelyn and Felicity find that perhaps their stars are the most cursed of all. Then we have The Darkness Within Us by Tricia Levenseller. Chrysanthus Stathos has won. By hiding her intelligence and ambition behind the mask of a beautiful, air-headed girl, she has gathered important secrets, earned her father's constant care, and become a wealthy duchess, all by the age of 19. Now she is only one elderly, dying duke away from having all the freedom, money, and safety she's ever wanted. Or so she thought. Turns out her little sister somehow snatched the true victory away from her. Alessandra is wedding the Shadow King, the most powerful man in the world. Meanwhile, after the death of Chrysanthus' no-good, lecherous husband, a man claiming to be the Duke's estranged grandson turns up to inherit everything that should be hers. Chrysantha is enraged. There is no way that she's going to let some man take everything from her. Never mind that he's extremely handsome and secretive and alluring with mysterious powers. No, Chrysantha wants Eryx, Demos, dead. And in the end, a Stathos girl always gets what she wants. Then on July 10th, we have My Fair Potion by A.E. Mckenna. Casting call for all alchemists near and far. Who will be the next Potion Network star? Not Leela Townsend, that's for sure. Been there, done that, reputation in shambles thanks to another contestant's betrayal. But when she stumbles across down on his luck alchemist Nathaniel Pittman, she sees more than the opportunity to give him a hand up. He might just be the key to getting revenge. Having quality ingredients is vital to a successful potion, and Leela and Nathaniel's chemistry at the alchemy table is cooking up a different kind of elixir. The kind that could explode in their faces once the truth is out. All he has to do to win is for Leela's reckoning to unfold, then they can go their separate ways. And they definitely won't fall in love. Then on July 16th, we have The Illusion of Stars by Mary Page. She's stealing more than secrets. As royal physician of a tiny windswept island, Isabel spends her days trying to keep the queen from dying and the mad king from streaking naked down the halls. But when her best friend is found murdered on the beaches, her world is ripped apart. Desperate for answers, she discovers a stash of letters that reveal a terrifying truth. The neighboring kingdom of Volgard possesses a kingdom-shattering weapon and is poised to conquer everything in its path. Seeking vengeance, Isabel infiltrates the enemy. Her mission? Woo Eric Lethgarson, the general's steamy illusion magic-wielding son, and steal the dangerous weapon. She can bring Volgard to its knees, if she isn't caught. But as Isabel dances along the knife's edge of deception, the lines between truth and fiction blur, and she must wrestle her quest for vengeance against her undeniable attraction to the enemy. And still on the 16th, we have La Fée by Sophie Keetch. Lady Morgan surveys her life at an unhappy marriage and a vengeful husband's determined to keep their son from his queen's clutches, a true love she can't be with, a jealous rival in magician Merlin, who has the ear of Morgan's half-brother King Arthur, and strange but wonderful powers of her own she is still exploring. What did I even say? Lady Morgan surveys her life at an unhappy marriage and a vengeful husband's determined to keep their son from his queen's clutches, a true love she can't be with, a jealous rival in the magician Merlin who has the ear of Morgan's half-brother King Arthur, and strange but wonderful powers of her own she is still exploring. Still confusing. As tensions rise within the castle, happiness seems an impossible dream until Morgan dares to break the shackles of expectation those around her insist upon. But this path to great joy comes at a terrible cost, and before long, Morgan must understand it's a price to be exacted in rich red blood. Rising from the ashes of desperation, she emerges hard, crystalline, and unforgiving. Now she is Morgan Le Fay, and hate is in her heart. Also on the 16th, we have The Lost Story by Meg Shaffer. Inspired by C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia, this wild and wondrous novel is a fairy tale for grown-ups who still knock on the back of the wardrobes, just in case, from the author of The Wishing Game. As boys, best friends Jeremy Cox and Rafe Howell went missing in a vast West Virginia state forest, only to mysteriously reappear 6 months later with no explanation for where they'd gone or how they'd survived. 15 years after their miraculous homecoming, Rafe is a reclusive artist who still bears scars inside and out, but has no memory of what happened during those months. Meanwhile, Jeremy has become a famed missing persons investigator. With his uncanny abilities, he is the one person who can help vet tech Emily Wendell find her sister who vanished in the very same forest as Rafe and Jeremy. Jeremy alone knows the fantastical truth about the disappearances, for while the rest of the world was searching for them, the two missing boys were in a magical realm filled with impossible beauty and terrible danger. He believes it is there that they will find Emily's sister. However, Jeremy has kept Rafe in the dark since their return for his own inscrutable reasons. But the time for burying secrets comes to an end as the quest for Emily's sister begins. The former lost boys must confront their shared past, no matter how traumatic the memories. Alongside the headstrong Emily, Rafe and Jeremy must return to the enchanted world they called home for 6 months, for only then they can get back everything and everyone they've lost. Still on the 16th, we have The Bright Sword, a novel of King Arthur by Lev Grossman. A gifted young knight named Colum arrives at Camelot to compete for a spot on the Round Table, only to find that he's too late. The king died 2 weeks ago at the Battle of Camlan, leaving no heir, and only a handful of the knights of the Round Table survive. They aren't the heroes of legend, like Lancelot or Gawain. They're the oddballs of the Round Table, from the edges of the stories, like Sir Palomedes, the Saracen knight, and Sir Dagonet, Arthur's fool, who was knighted as a joke. They're joined by Nimue, who was Merlin's apprentice until she turned on him and buried him under a hill. Together, this ragtag fellowship will set out to rebuild Camelot in a world that has lost its balance. But Arthur's death has revealed Britain's fault lines. God has abandoned it, and the fairies and monsters and old gods are returning, led by Arthur's half-sister Morgan Le Fay. Kingdoms are turning on each other, warlords lay siege to Camelot, and rival factions are forming around the disgraced Lancelot and the fallen Queen Guinevere. It is up to Colum and his companions to reclaim Excalibur, solve the mysteries of this ruined world, and make it whole again. But before they can restore Camelot, they'll have to learn the truth of why the lonely, brilliant King Arthur fell, and lay to rest the ghosts of his troubled family and of Britain's dark past. The first major Arthurian epic of the new millennium, The Bright Sword is steeped in tradition, full of duels and quests, battles and tournaments, magic swords and fisher kings. It also sheds a fresh light on Arthur's Britain, a diverse, complex nation struggling to come to terms with its bloody history. The Bright Sword is a story about imperfect men and women who follow, full of strength and pain, who are looking for a way to reforge a broken land in spite of being broken themselves. And another one on the 16th, we have The West Passage by Jared Pechacek. A palace the size of a city, ruled by giant ladies of unknowable eldritch origin. A land left to slow decay, drowning in the debris of generations. All this and more awaits you within the West Passage. Delightfully mysterious and intriguing world, medieval fantasy unlike anything you've ever read before. When the guardians of the West Passage died in her bed, the women of Grey Tower fed her to the crows and went back to their chores. No successor was named as guardian. No one took up the fallen blade. The West Passage went unguarded. Now snow blankets gray in the height of summer. Rats erupt from beneath the earth, fleeing that which comes. Crops fail, hunger looms, and none stand ready to face the beast stirring beneath the poisoned soil. The fate of all who live in the palace hangs on narrow shoulders. The too young mother of Grey House sets out to fix the seasons. The unnamed apprentice of the deceased Grey Guardian goes to warn the Black Tower. Both their paths cross the West Passage, the ancient byway of the beast. On their journeys, they will meet school teachers and beekeepers, miracles and monsters, and very, very big ladies. None can say if they'll reach their destinations, but one thing is for the world is about to change. And last on the 16th, we have The Second Son by Adrienne Tooley. An epic clash of deities explores the two facets of pain, rage versus sadness, in this rousing conclusion to the betrayal prophecies, a dark-crowned fantasy duology with a sweeping sapphic romance. The centuries-old prophecy has been fulfilled at last. The new maiden has returned to Vel. Unfortunately, so has a malicious demigod whose elusive prophet is intent on converting the new maiden's followers. The second son is a vengeful, angry deity whose psalm resonates with the disenfranchised. With Elodie on the crown and Sabine in her own unique position of power, it should be easy enough to track down the culprit. Yet, even as they're falling in love, both girls are keeping dangerous secrets from each other. While the cult of the second son threatens to overthrow not only the church of the new maiden, but also Vel's monarchy, Elodie and Sabine must navigate impossible odds to dismantle the root of the power, all while their lives hang in the balance. Then on the 20th, we have The Moonlight Market by Joanne Harris. From New York Times best-selling author Joanne Harris comes a richly imagined and captivating novel of two colliding worlds. Deep in the heart of London, a photographer walks the streets and captures whatever catches his eye. An old man drinking coffee, a beautiful woman sipping champagne in St. Pancras Station, a cloud of moths, disturbed, taking flight across the sky. But with each photo, he captures something unseen by the eye, and as each negative develops, revealing a person he hadn't met, a danger he hadn't noticed, and a world he hadn't seen, he is drawn further into a hidden war. One which he has been drawn into many times before, and every time had his memories of the truth and of the woman he loves stolen from him. As Tom pieces fragments of the truth together, he realizes he must weave through a war and fight his own battle, both for the woman he loves and for himself. Then we have a few coming out July 23rd, starting with Queen Bee by Juno Dawson. The next spellbinding installment of Juno's irresistible fantasy series, Her Majesty's Royal Coven, takes us back to the reign of Henry VIII and the origins of Her Majesty's Royal Coven under the beautiful, the bewitching Anne Boleyn. In 1536, and the Queen has been beheaded. Lady Grace Fairfax, witch, knows that something foul is at play, that someone has betrayed Anne Boleyn and her coven. Wild with the loss of their leader and her lover, a secret that if spilled could spell Grace's own end, she will do anything in her power to track down the traitor. But there's more at stake than revenge. It was one of their own, a witch, that betrayed them. And Grace isn't the only one looking for her. King Henry VIII has sent witch-finders after them, and they've organized like they've never been before under his new advisor, the impassioned Sir Ambrose Falk, a cold man blinded by his faith. His cruel reign could mean the end of witchkind itself. If Grace wants to find her revenge and live, she will have to do more than disappear. She will have to be reborn. In this gripping, propulsive, sultry short novel, Juno Dawson takes us back to the bloody beginnings of Her Majesty's Royal Coven to show us the strength, steel, and sacrifice it takes to make a sisterhood. Then we have The Haunting of Hecate Cavendish by Paula Brackston. The Haunting of Hecate Cavendish is book one in New York Times bestselling author Paula Brackston's new magic-infused series about Hecate Cavendish, an eccentric and feisty young woman who can see ghosts. England, 1881. Hereford Cathedral stand sentinel over the city, keeping its secrets, holding long-forgotten souls in its stony embrace. Hecate Cavendish speeds through the cobbled streets on her bicycle, skirts hitched daringly high, heading for her new life as an assistant librarian. But this is no ordinary collection of books. The cathedral houses an ancient, chained library, wisdom guarded for centuries, mysteries and stories locked onto its worn, humbled shelves. The most prized artifact, however, is the medieval world map, which hangs next to Hecate's desk. Little does she know how much the curious people and mythical creatures depicted on it will come to mean to her. Nor does she suspect that there are lost souls waiting for her in the haunted cathedral. Some will become her dearest friends. Some will seek her help in finding peace. Others will put her in great peril, as she quickly learns, threatens the life of everyone she loves. Next we have In the Shadow of the Fall by Tobi Ogundiran. A cosmic war reignites, and the fate of the Orisha lie in the hands of an untried acolyte in the first entry of a new epic fantasy novella duology by Tobi Ogundiran for fans of N.K. Jemisin and Suyi Davies Okunboya. Hecate is an acolyte in the temple of Ifa, yearning for the day she is made a priest and sent out into the world to serve the Orisha. But of all the acolytes, she is the only one the Oshira refused to speak to. For years, she has watched from the sidelines as peer after peer passes her by and ascends to full priesthood. Desperate, Hecate attempts to summon and trap an Orisha. Any Orisha. Instead, she experiences a vision so terrible it draws the attention of a powerful enemy sect and thrusts Hecate into the center of the centuries-old war that will shatter the very foundations of her world. Then we have The Dissonance by Sean Hamill. From the acclaimed author of A Cosmology of Monsters comes an epic contemporary fantasy, a mixture of The Magicians and It, a story of dark magic, terrible mistakes, and secret chances. You can never go home again, the saying goes, but how Athena and Aaron have to. In high school, the three were students of the eccentric Professor Marsh, trained in a secret system of magic known as the Dissonance, which is built around harnessing negative emotions, alienation, anger, pain. Then 20 years ago, something happened that shattered their coven, scattering them across the country, stuck in mundane lives alone. But now, terrifying signs and portents, not to mention a pointed Facebook invite, has summoned them back to Clegg, Texas. There, their paths will collide, that of Owen, a closeted teenager from Alabama whose aborted cemetery seance with his crush summons something far worse, a murderous entity whose desperate, driving purpose includes kidnapping Owen to serve as its Renfield. As Owen tries to outwit his new master, and how Athena and Aaron reckon with how the choices they made as teens might connect to the apocalyptic event unfurling over the Lone Star State, shocking alliances form, old and new romances brew, and three unsuccessful adults and one frightened teen are all that stand between reality and oblivion. From one of the boldest, most brilliant voices in modern fantastical horror, The Dissonance is a thrilling and beautiful written story of magic and monsters, forgiveness and friendship. Then on July 24th, we have The Lost Souls of Benzaiten by Kelly Murashige. A fantastical and heartfelt debut, quirky and transportive, that follows a young outcast on a journey of transformation into a robot vacuum cleaner. I wish to become one of those round vacuum cleaner robots. That's what Machi writes while praying at the altar of Japanese goddess Benzaiten. She writes it because ever since her two best friends, Angel and Sunny, decided they want nothing to do with her, Machi hasn't been able to speak. After months and months of online school and seeing different therapists, Machi still hasn't uttered a word, and she can no longer see the point in being human. But she doesn't expect Benzaiten to actually hear her prayer, much less offer to show Machi all the beauty of humanity, ultimately restoring her voice. Benzaiten is enamored with the human world, possibly a little too enamored, and as she's the goddess of love, humanity is enamored right back. Being second best to another friend isn't helping Machi move past her trauma, and with each adventure they share, Machi is reminded of everything she's lost. It isn't until Machi starts interacting with the souls of the dead, a phenomena of spending so much time around a goddess, that she starts to understand pain can serve a purpose. When she really stops to take a look around her, she realizes the potential for happiness and for closure has been there all along. Then on the 30th, we have The Mirror of Beasts by Alexandra Bracken. With the dream of Avalon in ruins, Tamsin and her best friends are all that stands in the way of Lord Death's plans to unleash the horrors of Anwin on the world of the living. As the wild hunt carves a bloody path across continents, Tamsin is mustering allies, tracking down powerful artifacts, and traversing into other lands in search of a way to stop him. Legends tells of a mirror of beasts, powerful enough to trap even Lord Death in its accursed glass, but the mirror is not what it seems. Tamsin must confront her own darkest secrets if she hopes to tap the mirror's strength to defeat her enemies. Arthurian legend bleeds into contemporary action, and scars of the past are now torn open anew by a star-crossed love that refuses to go quietly. This riveting conclusion to the Silver in the Bone duology will hold you in its thrall until very last page. And then, on July 30th, we have Long Live Evil by Sarah Reese Brennan. A tale for everyone who's ever fallen for the villain. From New York Times bestselling author Sarah Reese Brennan comes a wild and witty portal fantasy where a young woman falls into her favorite fantasy novel and gets to play the villain. When her whole life collapsed, Ray still had books. Dying, she seizes a second chance at living, a magical bargain that lets her enter the world of her favorite fantasy series. She wakes in a castle on the edge of a hellish chasm, in a kingdom on the brink of war. Home to dangerous monsters, scheming courtiers, and Her favorite fictional character, the once and forever Emperor. He's impossibly alluring, as only fiction can be, and in this fantasy world, she discovers she's not the heroine, but the villainess in the Emperor's tale. So be it. The wicked are better dressed, with better one-liners, even if they're doomed to bad ends. She assembles the wild, disparate villains of the story under her evil leadership, plotting to change their fate. But as the body count rises and the Emperor's fury increases, it seems Rey and her allies may not survive to see the final page. This adult epic fantasy debut from Sarah Reese Brennan puts the reader in the villain's shoes for an adventure that is both brilliant and supremely satisfying. Expect a rogues gallery of villains, including an axe-wielding maid, a shining knight with dark moods, a homicidal bodyguard, and a playboy spy master with a golden heart and a filthy reputation. And that's it. Those are the fantasy novels I found that are coming out in July. If any of those sound interesting to you, check them out. I hope some of them sounded interesting. A few of them definitely sounded pretty interesting to me. There's a lot that's probably not really up to my speed, but that doesn't mean they won't be up to yours. Found that to be really fun. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and I hope to see you around again. With that, we'll see you next time. The sexy enemies to lover tension of the Bridge Kingdom meets the snarky banter of Adon of Onyx and the swoon-worthy romantasy. Please note the spice level is a steamy fade to black, meaning there's some foreplay and build-up, but no on-page sex. Yeah, I'll cut that part too.